Going into Saturday, the quarterback position especially, what are some things you really want to look at them to improve?
From an improvement standpoint, operating, right? And when bad things happen, do we make a bad play horrible? I think that's what separates great quarterbacks is not necessarily the great plays that make SportsCenter, but do your bad plays make SportsCenter? When your bad plays don't make SportsCenter, that's when you're a great quarterback.
What are you looking forward to? What questions do you have that you don't have the answers to yet, Kenny?
I think guys just continuing to operate and what guys can be consistent. I mean, we're always talking about if you want to be a great player, right, if you want to be counted on, you got to be consistent. So we're looking for consistency across the entire board. And this is only our second scrimmage, so we're excited to see what players can show up again and be consistent when the lights are on.
Who has been consistent in practice through 13 days of practice?
I think there's been a number of guys that have been consistent. I think we've had a pretty good fall camp, and I think our guys come to work.
What about the younger players from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2? What's the number one thing you look for when it comes to them?
Growth, not making the same mistake twice, right? Can you go out there and can you make a mistake that you did last scrimmage, and can you correct it when the coaches aren't out on the field and helping you? Sometimes when you're in a live setting, in a scrimmage setting, things can get overwhelming because there's nobody there to help you when you look around, right? We're looking for the guys that, when the situation is big and when they have nobody to help them, do they take a deep breath, do they think, and do they go out and play fast?
Do you feel like you're one more data point away, Kenny? Is Saturday scrimmage going to be enough after that point? That's 14 practices, 15 in the spring. Do you feel like you're one away from naming a quarterback?
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just going to happen when it happens.
What are you looking to improve on the most for the second scrimmage?
I want to improve on our tempo. We're not playing at a very fast pace right now. It's not really who we are, but we got to play a little bit faster. It's something that I would like to see. I'd like to see us take care of the football more with the ball in our hands. I think we're a little bit too loose with the ball, so I want to see ball security, and I want to see it play with a little better tempo.
We've heard from a couple people in these interviews that you seem to have a pretty collaborative approach. What's your approach in terms of soliciting and even incorporating feedback from whether it's a fellow assistant coach or even a player about how you guys are going to
I learned from a young age that, the smartest people listen the most. So, I mean, this isn't just me coming out there being a dictator. This is listening to the players, what our signal's going to be, listening to the quarterbacks, what plays they like and are comfortable with, listening to the players on the roster saying, I like this route, I'm good at this route, I like to run double moves, can I run it this way from a cut split, right? I have better leverage from that standpoint, right? So I think it's the more you listen, I think you reap the benefits of using a lot of people's intelligence, and people think it's you, when in reality, you're just not being stubborn.
Players aside, are there things that you as a coach are looking to get better at in tomorrow's scrimmage, something that you want to work on yourself that you can kind of improve on?
I think 100%. I think sometimes you get in a rhythm with comfortable calls. I want to put myself in challenging situations to where we're calling complex calls in the middle of drives, not just on P and 10s, but we're calling really complex calls for a defense that aren't just tempo calls where you almost get in a rhythm because you're in a drive, you try to play fast, really stopping ourselves and getting us into the best call possible on certain situations.
What has Troy Franklin brought in fall camp that was either better or more advanced?
I think that's a guy who's been consistent. That's a guy who's bulked up a little bit, and that's a guy who's putting in the work. Every single day, you've kind of gotten the same guy. And that was one of the biggest challenges I said to the offense before is, the quarterbacks are going to throw to the people that they're comfortable with and that they trust on third downs. And that's what winner loses football games is third downs and red zone. So are you a guy that the quarterback trusts on third downs? And I think Troy Franklin's, slowly proving that he's a consistent guy.
When you're overhauling a receiver position, as you guys kind of are, at least from when you came in the spring, certainly in numbers, you've added a lot. You had Cotto, you had Casper, those guys. You did this, you went through this exercise at Florida State.
Yep.
How does this compare by way of, are you ahead of where you were at Florida State? Because that was still work in progress. You were adding guys literally up until the day you left.
Yeah.
Is this ahead of the curve, do you think, by way of what you inherited combined with what you've added?
I don't necessarily want to compare us, to a former place, but I do think we're in a good place. I think the guys are hungry and they're connected. The guys are helping each other. I think that's the biggest growth right now is if they're not on the field and there's a young buck in, you see Dante Thornton and Troy Franklin jogging behind and Seven McGee jogging behind trying to get a guy lined up, trying to help him. Right? They're communicating with each other. So if one person, doesn't get the signal right, you can see the communication so they all get it right. We talk about, right, Coach Lanning talks about, how your voice, right, how loud you say something is confidence, right? And if you know you're right, if you have confidence in something, say it with your chest. So everybody believes you, everybody rolls with you, and we're all on the same page. And I think those guys are really buying into that message to get all 11 guys on the same page.
How would you describe the competitive atmosphere right now between the offense and defense? Do you feel like there's been a lot of trash talk? Do you feel like entering the scrimmage, each side kind of has something to prove? What do you think about just the competitiveness?
I think it's healthy. I think we're competitive as crap. I think they're getting after it every day, but I think we have a really good balance that we all understand we're all on one team. We don't want guys on the ground in practice. We want to keep guys up. We want to keep them healthy, but we want to find that balance where we can go to work and be physical, right, while keeping guys up. And I think our guys have done a great job getting better at that throughout fall camp.
You guys were a little snake bit along the O-line with minor things along the way, but that gave some young guys opportunities, gave some other guys some contingency plans. Where do you feel like you are in terms of getting it sorted out of what the starting line is going to be? Because even in the spring, it was just Steven at guard or tackle versus TJ at guard or tackle.
Yeah, I think we've got a few moving pieces still for that, but I think we've got a good crew of people who we feel really, really comfortable with. Some young, some old, but that goes back to the veterans in that room are doing an unbelievable job just bringing people with them because they had to by default, like you said. Fall camp, you're going to have nicks and bruises. So those veterans were playing alongside some young bucks, and they were trying to help them, get them lined up, help them with the calls. So I feel good about the depth in that room.
I'm going back a ways, Kenny. You were obviously at Chaparral when Dan was at ASU, but did you first cross paths there or at Memphis?
We first crossed paths at ASU. I would actually go up there, sit in meetings, and I remember Coach Lanning snuck me an install tape under the table. You know what I mean? We're supposed to give him out, and he snuck me one that I could bring home and watch.
So if you knew him that far back, what did you think when he took the demotion going down to go back to being a GA at Bama?
I think if anybody who knows Coach Lanning knows he has no ego, and you know that he just wants to learn ball. He's always learning. Still now, he's still studying. He's still learning. He loves learning ball. So when he went there, that made perfect sense to me. He got to learn football.
That also, obviously, you were at Memphis when Sophia had her.
Yep.
Walk me through what you observed with them, because they're a young couple, they're young kids.
Yeah.
You're obviously also young.
Yeah. Super just like a bad word, but like the way they handled the adversity, right, was really incredible. The way Coach Lanning would come to work every day, he'd leave home at lunch, go see Sophia, go see the kids. The kids would be up and around. It was just the definition of who that family is, right? They're people that, were at Arizona State as a GA with a lot of kids, and they found a way to survive with Coach Lanning riding a bike to work. You know what I mean? And that's just who he is. That's who Sophia is. That's who their family is, right? They're going to do whatever it takes for each other. So, it was super just motivating, and, that's what a family should look like.
You guys had Coach Gary Campbell out here yesterday. What was it like to have him out here? And you were able to pick his brain a little bit about
Yeah, that's awesome. Anytime this place has so much history, we want the history here. We want the players. We want the coaches. We want the history here. And anytime you get a guy who's famous in this profession, somebody who's a legend, right, and he's in front of you, it just really puts it in perspective how lucky every coach is, how lucky every player is to put on that uniform, to walk in this locker room, right? It just is a blessing to have these guys around, and, it's just a reality check that, wake up, and it doesn't matter how early you have to wake up, you should be happy you get to come work here.